Looking yeah, that there's been a lot of questions since that the singing that I did, the Kohimori Wecij, the songs. But I just did it because I wanted to. I guess people that used to go to those, when we used to have it. Um, I just wanted them to hear maybe some of the songs and maybe kind of reminisce of the. Like I said, I don't think it's going to happen again. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, depending on not me. It's really dependent on the young people because the young people are the ones that have to do all the work. Me, we can do some, but the majority of it is Suki, and it's always been like that. Katoshi Amjit, when we were young, um, it's always been the men of the community that did those. But the questions were, Mama Chimichaka, did you ever drink that wine? Did you ever, like what part of the thing do you remember? So I just kind of started talking and Taya, the questions got to be kind of deep and that I'm just gonna, talk about it as a story from beginning to end and see, there's a lot of people that are really not interested in this. Some people say that they are, but it's just they just want to know and that's it, or they want to share or have fun or whatever. But there are those, I think, maybe a small percentage of those that will see this that really want to or really, um, I guess, want to understand it more in a spiritual level. And so that's why in the Bashrinya just do it like this. But everybody has their own stories. I mean, people older than me, but and like I say, I don't know why I'm in Hyuk and they're not sharing their stories. I'm hoping that they are. Some I hear they are. Uh, you know, Kids will ask questions to Maltatra and start talking, but when I talk to them about Chicha like that, like the kids will be there for a while and then they'll get tired and go off, or they what they call boring. That's something that will be amateur because they were taught in this way to really like sit down. But anyway, the whole Kohimori thing, it's not just the Kohimori. It starts way before the summertime comes with the Nothing, the cactus and because that was one of the most sacred things in our culture was Sugi, the cactus and the wine. Um, because we didn't have a lot of rain here, so they wait for that, and then when the flowers start blooming on the head of the saguaros, then to'anatokchit. Everybody starts to get happy, because they know that time is coming. It's a lot of work, but they know they have to do that. And this is like 700 years ago. They mark their territory, they get their stuff together, and then they go out and wait. And they have these hunters that go out and shoot deer and mountain lion and whatever else they find out there. So they're out there hunting, and they're the ones amongst if they see the cactus with the knife start to get red, they get home, tell everybody, and everybody starts getting ready. Nowadays, well, recently, like the 1970s, it was the cattle ranchers, the Wapkir that were out there because they were the ones out there with their cows and they would see, like, what was going on in the mountains. And they would come home and tell, and that Toyamoyanako again, Hugum Wapkir, because they had cattle and the cattle had to drink water and it was scarce. So they watch out for that. Toyanako. A lot of these people that were the leaders of the communities, especially Higam, like for Gohimori and different kind of ceremonies, mostly Higam, those cowboys, until recently, maybe like 30 years ago, it started to change a lot. But it was like that, and so Idam, they would wait for that, and then they would go out and start getting by that. So we and how much, we go out and get and we say, "Oh, we got a lot, we got this thing, full." And but a long time ago, those people they took the whole thing, all the mountains just be bare, kamai, go all over, kanai and that. And people like from Pisin Mall go to covered wells and they get theirs, and Santa Rosa goes to covered wells, and Big Fields goes to in that area covered wells. Kabayan yes, they're picking by the star took them, I don't know. They talk like they're from Pisin Mall. Oh yeah, because they get theirs, like that. And they don't see that as much, throughout the year. So what happens is they all get their by that, make big, big, sitar a lot, not just like a little thing, but I'm talking like 55-gallon drums that those sizes, monata, in these pots, and they make their sitar and they bring it back home, and they're gonna have that for the rest of the year. But when they get home to this time, and usually about the middle of July, around that time, was when the Gohemuri or the Nawiti would start. How much, we go into August and September. A long time ago, it was usually about that time when everybody came back. So they would start to, and each family had a lot of by that sitor, but they would put a little bit aside for the community. And that the Nahimi, the person that's Ohika, the somebody sent around to get these by that sitor, and they would come back with this, from each household. They would come back with these bottles, actually, then they would say, well, we made this much, and or we can this much, or make this many jars, those big jars, not just those little whatever, but big jars is kind of like I don't know, like maybe like 10-gallon, jar. That's what they made, and they had these willow baskets, and the willow baskets they start to put. And look at that willow. They take some of that chun, or either they somehow treat it. Almost see, rub it on there, and then they'll put it underwater and do that for like 4 days. Keep it wet, put some more on there, put it on both sides, about you. And after the fourth day, then they'll let it dry. During that time when it's underwater, the hugam, those cattails and all those will start to expand, and that willow would expand. So it will close all the holes. And so about the fourth day, they take it and put water in there, and it won't go through. The water will stay in there. The same thing they do with those potteries. They would get those and um, uh, and they then that on the day like they're gonna have to now they start with 10 days. When they say matoig now or matogoyamori, or there's a lot of these little idioms that autumn say tuak tash, try shoot a cow and no, whatever they're gonna say. They get together and they practice, but 10 days, they would have 10 days from that point. Then they send runners to the next communities. Come on, we're going to put in 10 days until this day. That's we're going to have our Taiwaki or Gohimuri. And each community did that. The 10 days. Um, and then after that, then they would practice, gather together. They would start to sing the songs and get them all lined up, sharp and choice, and because like even when I was singing the songs the other night, the other songs, like I would start a song and then the end of another song comes up, and so I would have to think real hard, try to in my mind think the song through, the my but other ones that I would think, I would start singing this thing and then it sounds like this other song, and it would wind up someplace else in a whole different. So that's why they did that. And then they would do that if you not that day before, that 10 days, and then they get together those men, and that's when they have those bahay dito. and then there's a big bowl with the matuak fruit that usually have runners run to the canoe and pupi white fruit again. They will bring it and put the water in there, and there's this usually one man, but sometimes there's more, and he has that ability to taste muskak now. So they would come and they would put the water in there, and then they would put some of the by the sitar, and then he would mix it with his hands, not no stick or whatever. And oh, his germs. What about his germs? No, that wasn't. You're becoming too American when you do that. But he will use his hands and murchiganu around and take it in. And they put a little thing in a little, thing for you, and then he would taste it and go try that one, and add some more water or go try that one, the sitar, and then they keep doing that until it gets to a certain taste, and by then they get that bowl. Then inside the house, the roundhouse, they have these big, big, big containers, the motua in there. Now the other part is that roundhouse. That roundhouse has to be thick. The material one material around it has to be thick because it has to get hot in there. So during those 10 days, the guys will go out and get new shuke, and then they will start to refix that, and that's where the help comes in. A lot of guys, I don't know, no, is it too hot for them or whatever, but it used to be Manila when I was young, and then there were some guys that would just come out, but a lot of times they had to bring the district workers or the community workers to come and do the work. But what I hear from way, way long time ago was the men that came and they did that. And even recently, as like 10 years ago, they used to go to the jail and ask those guys, Mopcoop over there, people that have community service to come and do it. They were forced to work off their community hours like that. It's supposed to be the men of the community doing it, from their, hasi uri, the kahimata, hasi uri, the community. Doesn't happen anymore. I don't know if I have to pay them or what. And sometimes people from outside of the community come in, and that's kind of a shame, for a community because their men couldn't do the thing on, Pianako. Yeah, they have to go to work, but they know way ahead of time. They can ask for time off work. Oh, but I need my vacation because I'm going to Disneyland. I don't know about that, but again, matita payot. So then they would go and come my option, and they would take the sugar and cut the whole bush, and they would put the sugar in there this side, and then put the sugar in there, flip them over, and stick it up. So each time it goes in the thick of part of the sugar is at the bottom, and they put some in the middle and all the way, como see tie together from the inside or outside, and make that thing real thick. If somebody gets in the house and they can see outside, they can look out and see who's out there. That's kind of a test. But a long time ago when they did that and they you know they couldn't see anybody outside, or sometimes people would come to the goemori and see the fire burning inside the house. You're not supposed to see that because it's supposed to be as thick so that no light can get through. So they put this in these big vats, this big and como and after they put that in there, and then they ferment it. They take a little fire, light a fire, and there's some men that usually the community will take turns. How much now the young people expect the old man to do it. But you're supposed to keep it hot, and a man's supposed to go in there, light it, put some more wood in the fire, and the that's what will ferment that wine. But again, and then the whole community, there's supposed to be no noise, no kind of noise all over. But about the 1970s, 80s, whatever, people playing their radios, cars that are passing by honking horns, kanomuk, and that's being disrespectful to Hukimamata. But again, Piamacha the Gumach come. Piamacha the Gochi too much come in, and So Koya Masamapaua and the kids are supposed to be staying away from there. It was immature, but again, and I remember that when I was young, that there was an old man that was left there at the house, and we would go over there. The mokuko, so you bring him a sandwich or some soda or whatever, and it was hot. But he would be out there, and he had his bed out there sometimes, and then so we'll go over there, come for a while, and just be real kind of hushed tones. And it was kind of like embarrassing to see people matanani up and they're waving and they're yelling, and I'm like, not supposed to be like that. But what do you do again? You can put up signs, but that just makes it worse. So then they start with Tuki that Tamohi a long time ago. They would make that Tuki Kamoaha that first night with the Kohimori, which will be the next night. And then that man could go home and go get something to eat or rest up a little bit, take his bed home or whatever. And we people would gather before the sun went down, to Humapa, and then they would start singing the songs. Those first songs talk about the sun going down. But I know we've been there a few times when the sun already went down like 2 hours ago and we're barely starting. And it's just took it that, times have changed. So, and they would sing the songs and start the Kohimori. And I'm afraid, hey, man, uh, man, oh man. But there's, much of a much that each community has their own understanding or own way of doing things. Um, in our San Rosa area, we do the Kohimori, and you step behind the foot. You spread your legs, put your foot here, and then your foot goes behind, and then you move over, and then you move over. Should be masama, back sideways, around all the way around in the counterclockwise motion. I know in Big Field and over there at Iron Stand and all those, some of those ladies go with the other way. I go ikush, with their foot front like this. But in Santa Rosa, we never did that. Um, so some of them kind of like matamatata, and they started doing that. But they were. I remember hearing them, "Mamnyanyak matawachi, or they're not stepping backwards. They're. And somebody said they don't do that here. But the next year it continued, and I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying that that's what they know in their area, and but yet it's different in Santa Rosa. We never really did that. From what I understand, from what was told to me by somebody, not my grandfather Juan Baptista, somebody else told me, when a man and a woman are espoused, when that's their husband or wife. And so the man goes backwards like this, so his belly button kind of faces this way, and the woman goes this way, so her belly button faces. So they face each other because they're espoused. But other than that, you're backwards like that because you're not espoused. I remember a long time ago, some woman came up to Maju and started dancing like that, and I had to turn around and just, then that song was over, and I went way to the front, try to get away from her because I didn't like that. It didn't feel right. But that's just me because I know about hooky. But that's, the other part is that I've seen in a lot of drawings, mostly Leonard Chana and Mike, that they draw the Kohimori, and they're real fantastic, real nice drawings. Okay, Kohimori, and they have that the stick with the feathers hanging on there, with that string of feathers hanging on there. That only happened in Santa Rosa. It didn't happen other places. It was just in Santa Rosa. But because it happened, and because of the paintings and the pictures and the stories that are written, um, people put that on there and they think that, oh, if you have a Goemon, you have to have that string of feathers. But yet in the olden days, when you go to places like Big Field or Anagam or North Comlick or wherever they had the Goemon, you didn't see that string of feathers. Um, we did that because a long time ago, I don't know when, like in early 90s or whatever it was, there was a group from Salt River that brought those. they brought different kind of effigies to each community to give to them. And so Santa Rosa community got that string of feathers, and they put those. That's what we used it for Wasuke. I don't know about the other communities. Just barely heard some stories, and I don't want to say because I'm not sure if they did, except for Anaga, as I know that they have these turtles, these little turtles that they gave to them. And there used to be a house out there, the Kida turtle house, and in there were these turtles, Wanyukut. And from what I hear from the elders, yeah, my Richam Samach, a lot of them passed away, but they would say that in that house was only the men that were not with the woman, that were not married, were not with any woman, could go in that house, and nobody else did. And I remember a long time ago, Matrigui, that house, and the story was that somebody came to rescue those turtles and took those turtles. But so I don't know where they are, but I just know that that was the story. And it was there was a small little piece in one of the manuscripts that I read that talked about that how some of the communities got some of the effigies that they got. But again, that um, string of eagle feathers was for Ame Machabua. And during the night, the medicine people would come and agitate those tapoikaigajuk, you know. So they would do the gohimri, and during the gohimri, there's this man that Matamotaiwa, and he's the one that's going to sing the songs and tell. Because the songs, they're not just sung like much, you know. If you got a CD of your favorite CD music and you like this one, you're going to put this one in first, this one in second. It's not like that with the gohimri. There's a set of songs that you sing first, and then from there you sing other songs that come next, all the way through to midnight, past midnight. They sing about different places and they travel in the songs. They're not just, you know, we're going to sing about that mountain over there and then we're going to sing about that mountain and then that river over there. It's not like that. They're kind of like they go this way and they go around and they walk this way and then they come around and go this way and then sing about that mountain and go all the way around and then, you know, on the next night they'll go this way and this other part, you know. So it's like they're traveling in the songs. It's not like they're just singing songs. Now, Hoka those medicine people that stand in the middle, they're seers, you know, in the dark, and the owls come meet them, and they you know, and they can see stuff going on. Kanomuk. In the olden days, long time ago, the fire was there, and that's what guided Hugum, those spirits from all over to come and dance with the people, and they would guide them to come and tell them about the rain. Bao him to Hugum Mamakai. And they have their tobacco and they will smoke. And every fourth song, you sing four songs, four times, one song four times, four times, 16 times. And then after that, then they would have a smoke break, and that's when they pulled out the tobacco. And they would, and once in a while, they would go out, you know, and then they would go into the dark. The dark is needed. You need the dark in order to see what's going on, in order to see the little lights or whatever's happening out there in the stars. And but in the coming times, like in the 1970s, and all of a sudden houses got lights, and now you couldn't see that well. But I remember one year there was a medicine person that told us that you know it's good that you know the dance and all this stuff, but he said, but you can't see anything because of all these lights. It looks like we're in the suburbs, we're in the city, we're in town. All these street lamps, Matabujo. So after that, for a few years, we had cut off the light so that they could see. But I remember one time too, the power went out for about maybe an hour. The power went out and it just everything just went black. And I remember that next when they had them to come and do their prophecies, um, they said that you know when the light went away, all these spirits came and they were right there dancing and they were all yeah. And then the power came back on and they all went away again. But he said for that time we could hear that you know Mastrum Target and you could see them. So that was another thing, Mabuwa. But because of that, mom, we have to once in a while they had to stop people because they now have flashlights and they're walking around a thornlery to see who's dancing, and that's something that they didn't do a long time ago. And they would shine the light, and sometimes the medicine people would say, "Peche mihi, imia," and then the flashlights would go on, or they're walking here and there, and then "Toegamos upahi," up, and they would just move farther back because they don't like the light. That's why they're in the dark, in the shadows. So hook up a pool and and so they would do that, and then the noises, cars would come. And about the 90s, they started coming up with these cars that would have to stay on. The light would stay on until you turn the motor off. That was another bad thing, because back in like the 80s, you could turn off the lights as you're moving up, but then after that, you couldn't do that. But these kids that came around, they had their Walkmans and they had their own music, or cars would come and they would have their own music. And biap mo niya or stamurchko. But that was part of hooky, the way that it was treated. Now, again, with the invention or the understandings that came in throughout, there was understanding that you had respect, and that's all you did. But about the 1960s, when everybody started plugging in and started making amplifiers and music and lights and whatever, then there was quite a few times where they had a dance, and like at least in San Rosa, they would have a dance at one side of the community, or they would have one in Palo Verde Stand or Achin, and the people were just going from the dance, coming to do Kohimori, and then going back, and just a lot of people intoxicated, and it didn't really work. Um, so the community at the time had to tell them at the Hasa. There was also what is that, revivals, inspiration across and the other way that were held during that time, and so the community kind of put a stop to most everything except for hooky. But still, we're in these times, and a lot of it didn't work. Um, so there was hooky that part. So the medicine people couldn't do their work because of that. Hooky there's all these disruptions where again, before like 100 years ago, or before all these interruptions came in, then that's the way that Gohimari used to be done. Now, I wasn't alive back then. I just looked like I was. But a long time ago, the I guess more Hasmaham Junium, or how they did it to perform the ceremony, uh, it can't be performed nowadays. And so when people said the questioning, when we're going to do it again, is it ever going to get back to the way it used to really be? I have no idea. All I know is that you can try, but it's almost like you have to bring people or somehow um, vet people so that you can get the people that really want to be there, that really are there for the right purpose. Because some people, again, when they started the dances and people go, and then the young people came in and they started treating it like it was a dance. They would meet in the back and drink and have their own parties and play their music at the goemori. And so I had to get mad at them, but the police wouldn't come and chase them off. So we had to do it on our own. You know, they would come park, but it was a whole different thing. So, and then like I said, from what used to be. Now, when I was growing up young and I first started, they told me, my grandfather told me, from my usha the ganawit, to take the nawit out, and with a whole bunch of guys, and there was four of us on one side and four on the other side. That's eight people that brought out the wine, and we're in there, and of course first they do the goimari, and then usually about 5 o'clock in the morning they do the first drinks, and they would have the first drinks. There's a song that they sing. They would have first drinks. Then after that, they would sit under the wato for a little while, and then the medicine people that were there all night with their feathers, they would come and tell the people what they saw, and they would predict the weather. When is it going to rain? How much is going to rain? Is it going to rain in the wintertime? All that stuff that they would tell. But again, now as the time comes in, it's a little bit harder because it's a little bit harder to see out there with all the lights and the noise and everything else going on. But, in the recent times, they will predict, this is what's going to happen and different diseases and stuff sometimes, not all the time. But they will talk about that and say, "Ah, patojo." And depending on how many are out there, sometimes they have four or eight or whatever. They would all come and they would tell their story, what they saw that night and what the reactions were that night from, the people and the spirits. And then after that, they would say, this is what's going to happen. And so it will go from there, and people knew that. But again, in the recent times, as recent as maybe 40 years ago, people would come and then drink the wine and then just take off. They didn't stay for that part, and yet to me, that's like the most sacred time when they told about the prophecy about what was coming. So that's why a lot of people don't know. And so when things happen during the year, if you were there and you heard them talking, then you wouldn't question why is it happening because you heard that. But other people would say, "Oh, I didn't know this was going to happen," and you know, so like that. So it's just like Mamtamayhaka, and then after that, um, they would share their stories. And then after that, you go home, and then about noontime, they used to gather over there, and then they would sit down in a circle. And then that's when the medicine man would go in there, and they would come out. Old man would come out, and he would make speeches. These speeches are memorized from years and years and years, and been repeated all these years, and that's an important part of it. The man will go and stand in the east, and then talk to the spirit in the east, and then go around and then go all the way around the circle and then go and stand talk to the spirit in the north and then go around again one whole time and then stop in the south, talk to that spirit and then go one more time around and then stop in the west, talk to that spirit, and then he would sing a song going around and everybody would sing that song with him. And they would also say, Ba'im. That's what the birds knew as they taught us was that imik is important. How do you who's your grandfather, your uncle? How do you say it in autumn? That was important because you couldn't drink any, wine unless you knew Muktabaim. So you see your uncle, well, which one? Your tatar, and they would respond back whatever the imik is, and then sometimes that person was talking to you, Yahakimat, and then you will reply back, Yawask, Yabab, Yamas, whatever it is. That's what was important to know the imik, and so they would drink, and then after the medicine man finished, he would go in and they would bring out the wine, and those first two would go this way, and they would go over there to those guys. There's two people representing the communities from that way, two people sitting on a rug over here, two people over here, and then the home town representatives. They would give them this, this thing of wine, put it in front of them, and they would have to bless it. I don't know what other word to use, but the word bless, but I don't think that's the proper word. They'll put their hand in there and then run their hand around the edge. And then they would take their hand and go like that. And then the rain, and then the drops would come down. Then they take that wine and they give it to them and then, Ba'im, the seas. Then they would drink some and then they would pass around. So these two are stopped right here. And then after they get their bucket, then they go this way. That guy goes this way and they pass around the wine until it's all gone. Now those guys over there do the same thing. They're over there like this, and when it's ready to pass, they talk up. You go that way, you go this way. Those guys on that side and these guys standing here would take their wine, and when it was time for them to start moving, they would move this way and then go around and pass out the wine until it was gone. Home and go back inside the house. Refills. They'd be inside the house, and then they would, and they would put some more wine, and they would keep going until all that wine is out. Now, again, being the one of those that took out the wine, we used to go in the house, and they would give us, and they would give it to each other. No, so that's how we got some. But even then, when we're in there passing out the nawit, a person could take that if they knew you, and then they would dip it and give it to you and say their imik, and then you would drink some, and you go all the way around till it's gone. And you keep doing that over and over again, depending on how much by the sitar the community donated. That's how much wine was made, and that's how much you pass out. So you pass it all out, and then after it's all finished, and then they do their last, because the man comes out and he does a blessing every single time when they're doing their refills. A different man. It's called the mockingbird speech. Shru gniok, shru gniok. Then after that, they will go out and pass out the wine, and then when it's gone, then you get up and everybody gets up and they're all walking around. People are throwing up, and you're shaking hands. Happy New Year. That's when that combination of that time, starting from when you went to go pick the that's all the way to that feast. Mata'aha. Then after that, and I was told, because you're one of those that brought out the wine, these people are going to come and they're going to tell you that they made wine and it's going to be done tomorrow, or it's done right now, or be done in 2 days. Come over and sing the song, because there's those songs that are sung in the ceremony, but there are separate songs that they sing at the houses. Somebody will come and they will say a mamash to cover the song. I don't know what other word to use, but that's a mamash. So whoever is doing that with the first before they drink the wine, it's kind of like a blessing before a meal. So they will go over there and they will do the same thing, put their hand in there, and then they would sing the song, a mamash. So they would tell us, and so people knew that we were the ones that brought out the wine, and that after that they would come to us and say, "Where are they having the drinks?" And we'll say, "Oh, so and so that lives way over there. Yeah, they're having theirs tomorrow, or they have." So that way you're kind of like the newspaper. Then after that, everybody goes out and goes home, and people that are around, will go and lay down and go to sleep, or either if somebody's wine is done, they all gather over there and they'll drink the wine, and they all go and they used to do just the Baita Chitor long, long before, but after people would migrate from Mexico and all that, and they started bringing grapes and raisins, so they started doing raisin wine. Sometimes people would drink the raisin wine, and that was okay. And then you would go and drink, and again, 700 years ago, you didn't have no job, you didn't have no schooling. The kids were taken care of by the community, and so you go out and stay out all whatever you want. But how much because of that, you have to practice a lot of self-control. Again, self-control in that you know how what your limit are, and you know when to stop, and you know that that's all that you're gonna do. A lot of the men that I admired at the time would drink, would be invited to go drink. They would drink, but they also knew that they had to feed their horses, feed their cows, and they had jobs. So they would stop at a certain time and go to sleep, and then move on. But some of them didn't, but they took off time from work or whatever they did to maintain, and But when we were kids, we used to just go all over, and even little kids, but we didn't. They wouldn't allow us to drink. Sometimes we'd steal some and take a little drink and whatever. But a few times to go to somebody's house, and because they know me, or being the eldest of all my cousins and everybody, the male eldest, that's one of the high respects that Autumn used to have. It's not like that anymore. But the oldest male always, hukam hawanimat. And so they would tell me, to come sit down, and a few times go in there and do the thing. And then they'll give me this bucket. I remember some of my friends that I hadn't seen from high school, from grade school for a long time. This was during high school, the early part. and they gave me this bucket and a little can, and they said, "Go have it with your friends." And cool, and then I would take it out there, and then I would sit down, and they would do the same thing because they knew too, that what the botim. And in knowledge, they didn't know what the relations were, but they always say knowledge, and then so drink some of your knowledge, and then after a while, we just drinking, 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 and we stayed out there, and some of them lived far away, and then they had to go home, or either they stayed there walking around the community, and there was always a place to go and crash out. There was no like real hurting anybody or stealing somebody's stuff. That I think that came later, like in the 80s or sometime. But prior to that, everybody took care of each other. So people would pass out someplace and they knew that nobody was going to molest them or touch them or steal their money. And then when they woke up, they knew they could go to certain people's houses and eat. That all changed, Bat Posse Massima. But so it was a pretty good thing back then. And then, we go and knock. And I remember we were walking around one time and we had this bucket. We are going to drink someplace. We're looking. And somebody said, "There's a white man passed out over there by the house." And so we ran over there, and we knew that white man. And there was a little bed that somebody had put there that was just springs and stuff. He was a skinny guy, so we just shoved him under the bed and said, "This will protect him. Nobody will run over him or nowhere." And then we left him there. It's kind of like that, It didn't matter whether we knew them or maybe they were our best friend or our enemy. You still take care of them. And then we go and, with the Googles, and everybody bought those, what is it, those fish, those, sardines, or the beanie weenies, or either those crackers and those little wee Vienna sausages, and go around and just eat that, because nobody wanted to cook during those times. And, everybody, bought you. And so we did that for a while, and then Mobihim them, there's all this other stuff came in where I think people just kind of got wild and they stopped drinking the stuff that was made by people and started bringing in, a lot of other stuff. And I think that's what changed because a lot of the young people, us young people, started adding that in there and kind of like went the other way. And so from there, because it was the old understanding was taken away, so the current understanding came in, or the still that way, in that it was just to get drunk and forget who you were and just do whatever you wanted to do and blame it on the drink. Whereas a long time ago, you kind of it's kind of like that too, but with a lot of respect, a lot of I think that it was knowing that somebody was watching, that the birds were watching, and that Itai was there, and all these, and Haichu. So you have that respect that the spirits are there with you. Whereas now I think it's kind of like gone. People don't talk like that anymore. Oh yeah, pihabawa. But like I said, even now, people ask me, "Can you make the wine? And can we have a taste, a sip?" Some young people, some young men asking, "Can we do that ceremony again?" And I keep telling them, you need to speak Autumn because it's all in Autumn, especially the speeches and all that and the songs. They're not just sounds. You have to really be able to understand what's going on. But I don't see any of them really pushing themselves to learn how to speak Autumn. So like that, Natamiko Anako. But future, I don't know what's going to happen. I know I'm not going to be here forever and ever, but I'm hoping this talk kind of tells you a little bit about some of the stuff that the wine feast was about and how it kind of evolved throughout the years, and that you understand. But like I said, there's people out there who really want to know and really um, understand, and will listen, will sit down and listen, and will ask further questions, and I'm waiting for those on my email and text. I know they're gonna come. I know you said this, but what did you mean when you said, that's those kind of things, the spirituality especially. Well, and I'm willing to answer those questions. Pitas you, I'm not gonna lie to you. But it's just, why do you need to know? I know that which a lot of people, especially a lot of people from outside or either mati Miragaj, want this information so they can take it and write a book and make money off of it. My thing is that if you do that, you know, don't take any of the proceeds. th- Give it to the people somehow. I don't know about scholarships or whatever, but there's a lot of people that need it. And to me, that's the basis of all this. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just doing this because I think it needs to happen. It's free information. I didn't pay for it. The information that I got was just people that trusted me. So I'm entrusting this words to you. Paso you, that's up to you. I'm just hoping that things will be holy and that you learn something. If not, that's fine too. But one of these days in Bimuk, I'll probably do another one to put in the stuff that I didn't put in or forgot to. I know, whatever. But just wanted to share this. And this was the only way I could do that. I broke my other computer, so I can't do it the way I usually do it. So I gotta go live. And I like this medium either, so you can save it and put it out to people that whoever you think wants to. There's a lot of people that really don't want to. Masapa. I'm hoping that the last thing I'm hoping that either this dialogue that a lot of people remember out there who were a part of this Kohimori in during my time. Maybe some of you went around with me and were out there, Shamai Chaswa, or I hope you can share your stories, what you remember, because there's a lot of funny stories. Tony hopefully will tell you about his restroom story with the Regis about and how they fought over toilet paper. Stuff like that, it's the stuff of legend. Okay, all right, look into if I can. There you go. Okay, here we go.